All right. Welcome back. I'm messing with lights, so I am all over the place. And just like this intro, this entire show is just going to be off the cuff and whatever we want it to be. Um, as you can see, we have a few less faces than normal, but that's totally okay. I'm going to give you my subpar best as I always do. And below me, we have John, the USL Tactics man himself. John, how you doing?
Yeah, doing well. Happy to be back after missing that fun Crest talk last week.
And above him is Sir Ryan. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you today, Kaylor?
You know, I'm doing okay. I cannot complain whatsoever. I mean, I could, but I mean, I'm sure we'll get into that at some point because I'm not very good about complaining silently. So, we have a whole lot to possibly talk about, maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of news around the USL, but there's almost not a lot to talk about, I guess, in a weird way. Because there's kind of USL news. There's kind of not with Harry in the chat right now. We have, I mean, San Antonio has created a tizzy by basically just teasing the fact that they have a black kit coming. So, all right, this is a kit show and obviously a crest show. Also, we have a lot of crests that have been announced recently. We obviously have to talk about that because we are the all-knowing, authority on such. Black kits, yay or nay?
I don't know. I think it depends on the design and everything that they kind of go with. I guess one of the best examples is Borussia Dortmund had a black kit, I think, this season that I thought looked pretty decent. But again, I think it's just down to how the design plays out.
If you're like integrating the black and the gray tones in a way where like there's some differentiation, there's more than just like a straight up black t-shirt, I like it. And I think that San Antonio set a decent precedent with that kit, with the sort of like Spurs rodeo shirt inspired chevron that they dropped the other day. I'm slightly worried that this one's going to be dull, but I don't hate the idea in a vacuum.
It's Puma, right? They should be.
Yeah.
They. Okay, listen. Here's my Puma take. We were so excited when Puma joined, and then suddenly Puma became the USL template team, just like Adidas did templates for MLS. And then, because everybody had the same honeycomb shirt. Oh, you have Puma, your keeper is wearing honeycomb. Unless you're Indy 11, it's like your whole team's wearing honeycomb. And I think New Mexico had the honeycomb as well. It's like, well,
yeah.
Why? I get that they're different colors, but at least make them look a little bit more different. Come on, guys.
As an indie guy, I think it was so disappointing with record, like launching with Diadora, who's a less well-known brand, but getting the checkerboard right out the gate, which is what everybody in the city wanted, to then like get to the point where you basically are just wearing a glorified training kit. And yeah, you earn the right to get those more customized sorts of products as you get a relationship with a manufacturer, but boy, it's boring to see the same kind of template across the league.
I mean, that's when you get stuff like what Hummel has done for Forward Madison, what San Diego Loyal has done this year with who they've signed with. It's escaping my name, but it's the same kit manufacturer as Tijuana has. And you even have a few really creative ones across in England. I think I've been a big fan of what the Wolves manufacturer has done this year. It's escaping my name again on that one, but like if you just have these variety of kits across the league, you're either going to have really creative ones or you're going to have really dull ones, and that's just going to be how it plays out across the numerous different manufacturers. Everything can't be all crazy, but Adidas this year certainly has tried with MLS.
Okay, so Legion, by all accounts, has a pretty boring shirt. I know that. I totally understand that some people don't like it because it's not flashy. But for me, I'm not really big into the whole flashy shirt as much. Like, I respect Forward Madison shirts. I don't buy them because I could never wear them because I couldn't pull it off. I know the black or white or red Legion shirt looks it's one plain color, so I can just throw on some blue jeans with it and it looks fine. I don't look like an absolute fool. You know what I mean? It also lasts. But I will say with the Loyal, they partner with Rocket League, which I think is pretty sick. They it's one of my all-time favorite video games. It's how, strangely enough, I got any kind of weird recognition in the USL world, which is weird. So I enjoy that. I'm probably going to buy one just because it's going to have Rocket League on the front. And like I said, I'm a simp for a good, kit. And it says Rocket League on the front. So why not?
And even like, I know we all talk about like how we all have a love of crazy kits, but sometimes what makes like the most iconic kits is just the simplistic design. I mean, and I speak to this as a Tottenham supporter, that it's just, you have a white shirt, or Manchester United's red shirt's pretty iconic. The same with Liverpool, Chelsea, all of those clubs have iconic kits. Just that it's the kit, that's the kit. It doesn't always have to be these flashy, let's change it up every year. Sometimes the best designs are just the simplest. I mean, Kayla, your university has a number as their helmet, and it's arguably one of the most iconic helmets in college football.
Yeah, it's nice. It's one of the nice things. And I guess that's kind of where my love for simple stuff comes into play. But even though I could talk kits all day long, and we will,
with the kit thing, I do want to ask you real quick, how are you feeling about the main shirt sponsorship with Birmingham?
So it looks really good with the red shirt. The red shirt with the Coca-Cola, white Coca-Cola across. I mean, it looks nice. It looks kind of like a can of Coca-Cola, but it's simple. It gets the job done. A lot of fans absolutely love it because it has the Magic City in the middle. The one that's weird is the black shirt because it looks like a can of like Coke Zero. It's different. I don't hate it. There's something strange to me though about black, gold, white, and red. That's kind of what comes with the territory of sponsoring with Coca-Cola, but I wish the branding on the black shirt was also white, but it's okay. It's like was it Pittsburgh or Charlotte that had, or not Charlotte, Charleston, that have the black and gold. I think it was Charleston, and then it's green text across the chest.
Yeah, I think so.
It's gross. I mean, it's a nice shirt, but the green text is gross. And I will say for Legion, the body armor one, because that's just another sub brand of Coca-Cola. The body armor is on the white shirt. It's a good look. I really like it. The only thing it's missing is some 3 sparks on there, and it's absolute perfection. So there was an interesting soccer comment, because we actually do that sometimes. I don't know which one of y'all want to take a crack at this. Maybe this is a John comment, or Ryan as well. What do we think about Pittsburgh in general, and is Silva a step up?
Yeah, so I can go ahead and pop in with that one. My statistics wise, I really, really rate what they got out of Vitiello last season. He was roughly top 10% of the league in terms of performance, like very solid save numbers. And then just watching them, he was the kind of guy who just commanded the area around the net really strongly, helped to organize a defense that often changed between like a back 2 or a back 3. So having someone like a Silva who's a bit younger come in is certainly going to be a bit of a transition, and especially like you're losing Preston Kilween, Jordan Dover doesn't seem like he's back. So as much as I love what Pittsburgh has done in the rest of the pitch, I think the defense and the goalkeeping are a bit of a question, if there is an area to question for the Riverhounds.
Which is weird.
Right.
That's a weird.
But at the end of the day, though, like, it's Bob Lilly, so you could throw like 2 cardboard cutouts there and they're going to be fine. But I don't know.
I mean, it's Lilly Bowl. He always knows how to build a tactically great defensive scheme. And it's weird that that is one of the weaknesses, but it certainly wasn't today, as Pittsburgh got a 2-0 victory over Indy 11 in a preseason game with Cicerone and USL legend Dane Kelly getting both of those goals.
I don't know how your numbers think about him, John, but Cicerone is one of the best USL players I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
The fact, and this is funny because I'm wearing this shirt, but Cicerone was the one player back in 2018 FC Cincinnati that I wish got more playing time because he was better than some of the people who were running out there, Audie. And then just why didn't he make the jump to MLS? Why hasn't anybody given him? Because he's a freak. I mean, he's one of those guys that he looks like he could at least be somewhere on the bench, at least give him a trial opportunity. But it doesn't even seem like he's getting that because he's signed for Pittsburgh right away anyway. So either he's content with not going to MLS or no one's giving him the chance, which both seem borderline ridiculous to me.
You could argue the same with I'd love to see Bob Willie as having a chance at going into MLS and have a chance to run an MLS team. There are multiple coaches at a USL level that I think could very well coach at an MLS level if given the opportunity. I'd love to see, like, what would you do if you gave Bob Willie the helm at St. Louis City and, like, if say build your club, let's see what you can do. Just pick your 26 players from across the world. If you want to call up from USL, pick from MLS. I'd love to see what their tactical minds would think about just creating an MLS team with such a higher budget as well.
I mean, let's look at some like Birmingham's Tommy Sohn. I mean, he's a U.S. Open Cup winner. Like, I think Jay Heaps as well. I mean, it's not like there's not quality coaches down here. I mean, okay, I don't know if we ever talked about this, but Johan Dame, who's at Los Dos now, I really rate him as a coach. I think he is a really good coach. I like what I see out of him stylistically. I liked that he was able to at least make Cincinnati look like less of a dumpster fire at times. And what I like about him too is that everybody loves him and everybody loves the academy thing. I don't know if he should have a go at MLS quite yet, but these are the kind of guys we have around who could be the future of MLS coaching. You don't always have to have a guy who directly comes from just some front office or just gets promoted within, like, oh, here's an assistant coach that was at a successful team. Let's promote him because he obviously knows what he's doing. You know, there's a lot of these guys in the USL that could tear it up as a coach.
Yeah, I mean, you spoke to, I think, two things, just to go back to the Cicerone point real quick. He's such an intelligent player where he's not going to blow you away necessarily on the face of things with like the athleticism or even the technical skill in certain aspects of the game. And I think that's why he's probably not got the chance at MLS. But in terms of like where he's making his runs, that sort of thing, he's completely up to snuff, completely above average at that level. So sort of an interesting consideration when like someone like a Tyler Pasher, who immediately is going to blow you away because he's one of the fastest players out there. But just to go back to the coaching thing, like you can't imagine that someone like a Bob Lilly wouldn't be successful in MLS. And speaking to that question about where is it harder to coach, I guess there's more of a spotlight in MLS, but not really, just because of the nature of soccer in this country. USL gives you so much more of a challenge in my mind in terms of building that roster with such a different kind of contract structure that you're dealing with, less resources overall, a bit more funkiness with travel and injuries and benefits and that sort of thing, where if you're an MLS coach, you kind of don't have to worry about that sort of thing, but it almost, to me, takes on a more all-encompassing kind of responsibility in the USL.
I'm kind of torn on it because my brain tells me it's harder in the USL because you don't have the same kind of resources. But that said, coaches like Alan Koch exist, which he's doing pretty well in, Edmonton now with CPL, which is not too far off from being the USL. If we're being, brutally honest, they're not that much better if they are better. I just don't know. For example, 2018 FC Cincinnati just bought talent. They just simply bought talent, which you can't do that in MLS. There's too many rules to keep you from hoarding talent. I mean, the rules that would probably keep the Miami FC from paying, $850,000 for Richie Ryan. That I don't know if that would have happened in MLS, or at least something of the same concept. It's not 1-for-1 exactly, but that same idea of just let's just spend a lot of money on the best talent. Those are DPs. If someone can correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like I'm remembering that there's a cap in max spending the USL can do, but with enough finagling of numbers, there's nothing stopping USL teams from creating all-star teams if they wanted, which there are a lot of things in MLS that keep you from doing that.
I think one of the things that I would give credence to make it more complicated for MLS is just the management of I'd say more management of locker rooms, just because you have these players that are coming in. Like if you would talk about, like the LA Galaxy, when you had someone with like the attitude of like ego of like a Zlatan Ibrahimovic, or you have all of these big stars, like managing those designated players that are above and beyond and everyone else on the team, or at least should be in terms of pay scale and everything. I feel like that's a very tough dynamic to try and manage within a locker room, that you basically are pointing to these 3 or so players that you guys are these franchise players. You guys are the key to the team this year, where I think it's within USL, you have that more across, there's probably differences in pay and skill level across that, but it's still like, it's more of like, you have to build a better environment, like a more cohesive environment across a USL team, which is obviously very challenging to try and please an entire locker room of players in terms of playing time and other treatment.
I don't want to get us too derailed, but I don't know how much further we have on this conversation. We can always come back to it, but I feel like it'd be very wrong of us if we didn't discuss Vermont's new crest. This is what the people come here for us for. Which there's a lot of USL news now that I'm doing another scavenge. I mean, Fuego has announced like everybody. There's a lot of League One news because League One don't stop. There's only like 8 teams or like 10 teams, but they do not stop signing players ever. But I mean, or is everybody kind of with me that the new Vermont crest is an S tier? I mean, or is anybody just
that font might be my favorite thing that I've seen in a while, just off the bat.
I quite like it. It's just one of those crests that you could tell they put a lot of thought into it, just that it fits the brand. It fits just kind of that theme they're going for. And I think it's a really nice crest.
Something that I thought was really cool. If you go and look at their sketches that they made of it, because I think the Matthew, blanking on his last name, bless it. Anyway, basically he released all of the different designs that they had came up with and they talked about. And the thing that the smiley face that's on the mountains, a good touch. If you look at the other designs, it was supposed to just be a black circle that circled around the mountain. And instead of making it a black circle, they just cut off a little edge and made a smiley face. So if you continue the black line, it just continues the circle like they originally planned, which cool little detail. And now that I see it, I love that it's there, that the smile lines up. It's awesome. I'm a big fan. I am a big fan of it. Smiling Mountain. Somebody kind of made the joke of like, does the S tier stand for summer camp? And I'm like, listen, a summer camp in Vermont sounds like a dream. Come on. That sounds awesome.
Could also be skiing.
It could also be skiing.
Yeah, Vermont any time of year, honestly. Underrated.
Sorry, my fiance is to the left of me, and I've been trying to talk her into moving to Vermont as of recently, and it's always been no. And so I was hoping that she heard that comment. So And she's giving me that look. All right, I'm going to shut up. Ryan, we obviously the fans can't see the chat or our private chat, but what's this 90, 50, 10% predictions?
So I had saw this on the Formula One subreddit, and I thought it would be a pretty interesting idea that you could have here that I wanted to bring. So you would be making 3 predictions that for the season, one that you think have a 90% chance of occurring, one that you think has a 50% chance of occurring, and then one that you think has a 10% chance of occurring. So these aren't necessarily you think all 3 will happen. You're just like tiering it in a way. And I thought it'd be an interesting discussion point for USL. Like, for example, for a 10% chance, I think we have a 10% chance, roughly you're speaking, that their USL team would make the semifinals of the Open Cup this year.
Okay. I like this. So let's
start with that. Actually,
yeah. Let's start with that one.
That feels high.
Does
it?
I
hate to say it. I don't know. Who off the dome can remember the farthest that a USL team has gone recently?
Cincinnati.
Semifinals FC Cincinnati 2018.
Right. Okay.
Or 2017.
And even in that same year, the Miami FC, they were in NASL at the time, also had a pretty deep run.
Quarterfinals. Since he knocked them out of it, actually. So we were guaranteed a lower tier team to be in the semifinals no matter what, to go against Red Bulls, which Cincy bottled it because we should have seen that coming.
And then in 2019, you had St. Louis, who lost in the quarterfinals, and New Mexico United, who lost in the quarterfinals as well. But I think the key with that is when you get to the semifinals, you basically have to get through 3 or so MLS teams on that way.
Right. It just feels like the burden of getting through that many rounds with these kind of weird midweek matches. And yeah, the MLS teams probably aren't giving their fullest. Man, I don't know. 10% feels about right now that I'm considering it.
My brain is telling me Loose City. Loose City would be the team to do it. Or Sacramento. Something about Sacramento screams, we're going to make a U.S. Cup run.
I feel like it's always strange, like especially with the cups. I think especially in USO, we have that instances where do you focus on the cup or do you focus on the league? And there have been clubs who, admittedly, they would sacrifice one over the other. Or we had this debate when Cincinnati was making their run that, like, if you're Cincinnati, you're leading the Eastern Conference right now, but you're also in the semifinals of the Open Cup. Do you go all out for possibly winning the Open Cup, or do you go for maybe a more sure bet of winning the Eastern Conference and winning the USL?
Let me tell you, I remember this is a deleted tweet. So if anybody knows how to use that deleted tweet thing, you might be able to find it. But after Cincy lost to Red Bulls first team in the Open Cup, like a week or 2 later, we lost to Baby Bulls because that's when they were still ridiculously good. And so their Baby Bulls account tweeted out something along the lines of, hey, Cincy, we have a PDL team if you want to give it a shot or something like that. And I was like, well, this just hurts. Like that was just uncalled for.
FC Cincinnati did just gain a second team. Now all they need is a first team in the city.
So, okay. What was the other one? 50%?
Yeah. What would be something you think has a 50% likelihood of occurring? I tossed in the 10% one, so I want to hear your guys' opinion on a 50% likelihood one.
I'll throw out a 50 and relevant. I was on the San Antonio podcast with Harry recently, and I was sort of expressing some pessimism about Orange County. So I'm going to give it a 50-50 chance that they even make the playoffs at this point.
Ooh, I don't hate that. I would have it higher.
And it's the defending champs, keep in mind, of course.
I wouldn't have them as the 90% because that would just be wrong. But yeah, if we're going by this 90, 50, 10 or 10, 50, 90, yeah, 50 is... They just don't feel like, even though this is largely the same team, it feels like it. Maybe if I haven't been keeping up correctly, but it felt like the team came together for a magical run, and that's kind of all it had in it. And I don't know if that's harsh or not, but that's how it feels. I'm sorry to, to everybody in orange and black. I love you guys, but it felt like one magical run, which I'm sure those guys, I'm sure those guys would definitely not trade anything for that cup, though. I mean, call it one magical run. I mean, it's what most all teams should be striving to do. Should be looking at you, Toros.
So the argument on my end, I guess, on the pessimistic side of things, where you've lost Eric Calvillo, who was so important to what they were doing, just in terms of like the build up and controlling the midfield. Rob Kiernan, who played almost 32 games for them as a center back, is gone. And yeah, you've got Kobe Henry, but that's still a big loss, and Henry is young. They're replacing Alston, who got a lot of games as a fullback. You like some of the talent that's coming in, and especially like Kubo Torres is the big name.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, he scored like 3 goals in 3 years or something silly like that. And people are talking about the signing as if he's almost looking towards becoming or moving into like the youth coaching area. So I think they're going to be competitive for me, but just given how sharp the West is and how deep a lot of the teams at the top of that division have become, I don't know. And that grinded out style that you spoke to, where they had let them go on that magic run, 32 games of that, where you're defending with your full heart every single game for 90 minutes. That's tiresome over the course of a really hard USL season. So that's sort of why I'm doubting at this point.
I'll toss in another fun 50%. I think 50% we have at least 2 players who score over 20 goals in the season. Only dating back to 2016, they only had 2 seasons, not including the shortened 2020 year, that we had no players score more than 20 goals. And that was 2017 and 2016. Each of the past couple years that we've had a full season, you've had at least 2 players score 20 goals.
All right. We after the year of last year, it's hard not to say Audrey Berry.
I mean, I wasn't naming names. I was just saying that 2 players at least get 20 goals.
I'm just trying to think of who else. My brain says,
if you wanted to know the other ones,
Lancaster.
It was Sebastian Guenzati, Cameron Lancaster, and Kyle Murphy were the 4 players who had at least 20 goals last year. Nico Brett was short at 18.
I would say, you know what? Kyle Murphy, surrounded by a better team, will either give him more goals or take away goals from him. And I'm not sure which one it is. Because him being around a team that's not revolves solely around him, maybe he doesn't score as much. I don't know. What's a 90? I feel like I'm in charge of the 90 now. I mean, it feels like, Louisville City makes it to the Eastern Conference Finals again, is because they're inevitable at this point. Or if you want to make it a true 90, make it Louisville City or Tampa Bay make it to the Eastern Conference Final. I feel like that's the only almost
that one feels unassailable. I can see Louisville not making the conference final just because it has to happen at some points. And I mean, if you think about how good Birmingham looks, Bob Lilly, as we talked about, like we just spoke on Miami and bringing in Kyle Murphy and Mark Segbers and all of that. There's competition in the East, and I think it's taken a step up even relative to last season. But
okay,
I mean, geez, they have to be the favorite for it, right?
I have a good 90%, a 9%er, because it's no 100%, but it's close. Vegas Lights will field a team this year. Can't guarantee it, but it's there.
I've always been interested in this. And you were talking about Louisville and Tampa Bay. How about this? what collection or how many teams in USL would you have to combine together that their odds to win USL Cup would be better than picking the field? College football loves to do this, where it's like you take Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, or the field. It's pretty likely one of those 4 teams would get it over the field. So what amount of teams and who would you take to like bundle their odds together where you would take them over taking the field?
Now, are we
Tampa,
talking about
Lou, Phoenix.
Are you
Is
talking
that
about
enough?
the cup, or are you talking
just
about the
win
conference?
USL Cup? Like if you bundled together Tampa Bay, Louisville, Phoenix, Sacramento, would you take those 4 over the field?
I would take the field there.
I'd take that for some, I think.
I think I would
that's
take
hard.
the field. I think if you made it 3, or if you made it 1 more, I would take them. But I think
Who's your 5th team, I guess?
my 5th team, I'm a big believer in New Mexico. I think that I think the East is a slaughterhouse this year, personally. I think that whoever comes out of the East will probably be the favorite. But I think New Mexico won't have the easier road, but their playoffs, I feel like the low of the good in the West is lower than the low of the good in the East, if that makes sense. So New Mexico has a better chance of making it. I think if you add in New Mexico, I would take the 5, but I think I would take the field over them because Phoenix does some wacky crap where they like to lose. You know, that's just kind of their MO is losing in the playoffs. I don't know. That's hard.
But that's a tough one. I feel like even with USL, I think less so than MLS, but more so than the Premier League. USL is top heavy, but not to the point where it's like you can only pick like 6 teams to win. I still like we saw from last year, Orange County was probably not one that you would take in the top 5.
That's a field
teams to win, but they still
team.
ended up winning. But I don't think it's too wide open to the point of MLS where like you could probably pick out like 20 teams who have a chance at winning it and could still end up lifting the cup. I still feel like this year you're still very top heavy to a point where you could probably narrow it down to about 7 teams and you would have a better than not chance it's going to be one of those 7 teams. Especially when you have teams like Louisville who make the Eastern Conference Final pretty much every year they've been in existence.
Look, this is a really interesting conversation. I really like this. We can claim. I listen. I will gladly take the East Coast bias throwout. You know, I don't get to watch as much West as I as much as I would want to. I watch a good bit of West in my free time, but even then it's kind of half watching, half doing other work. But here's what confuses me, and maybe John, you can answer this. You and a lot of people have Sacramento really high up. What signings have they made that makes them different from last year? Because I thought they were really good last year and then they didn't perform. So now I'm just confused.
So the argument with Sacramento is that team last season was pretty much the same team in terms of the core players that they've been rolling out for 3 or 4 years at that point, consistently at least. And so it had gotten stale. And when you're thinking about the issues that team had on the pitch, so much of it came in the final third, where defensively they were one of the better sides in the league, or at least above average, and like not shipping bad goals for the most part. But then they would advance it past the midfield. You're missing a number 10 type. The forward play was a little bit uninspired. The finishing was bad. And so what they've done is completely rebuild that midfield to get a Rodrigo Lopez, who's, despite his age, one of the better creators in the division. Matt LaGrassa, proven number 10 type in the USL and has done it with Nashville and MLS. Nick Ross is a deep progressor, and then Zico Lewis, who you would know from Charleston, certainly. So you've added all these really effective players in that sort of position. Douglas Martinez coming in at the striker spot. He's an absolute stud. the big reason for me that Real Monarchs won that title that they got, because he was just so effective as this complete physical forward. And they brought in Luther Archimede, who I think really has breakout potential from the Red Bull system. As pacey as all get out, he can stretch a defense. He's going to come on late in games and just tear you apart. So you've got all that where you've kind of broken that issue of the staleness. You've put together for me the best midfield collection of players in the entirety of the USL. And you've got enough lottery tickets at forward that I'm sold on it. To me, that feels like a team that is going to be really good. And I think one guy to watch in terms of that defense where they have made some changes is Lee Desmond at the center back spot. Lots of experience in Ireland, especially, I believe.
188 appearances.
From what I've heard from people who are sort of in the know with that, he has just been super impressive in their preseason camp, stepped up in terms of that leadership. So from top to bottom. Oh, and then we talked about Danny Vitiello. He's the new goalkeeper in Sacramento. So every single tier of this team has improved for me. And they've done it in a way that just feels tactically comprehensive as well. So I'm just sold on the vision there.
Can I drop? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, I was just saying, I completely agree. I would argue that Sacramento is basically, they've rebuilt a USL team the way you should probably rebuild one. They've brought in a lot of talent that are proven at an international or at a USL level. And I feel like they should definitely be at least a top 3 team in the Western Conference, if not toss them into that same foursome of you should be winning the cup this year.
I'm going to toss out 190%, one more 90%. And this should be a fun conversation, I think, anyway. I think it's 9% chance that at least one League One team is going to be the championship team in the Open Cup. I think the good of League One is a lot better than the bottom feeders of the championship. And that's somewhat putting a little bit of pressure on owners of the championship who are being cheap for some reason. But part of that is League One is good, like really freaking good. And I don't know if it'll be like Greenville versus Oakland. That feels unlikely to me, but it's a home match for Greenville. And, you know, that place, if you haven't made out to a Greenville Triumph match, I mean, it is nuts. They are the real deal when it comes to home support. But somebody's going to slip up against a League One team. And I feel like there's a chance that we might see a League One team really embarrass a championship team this year.
So here, I'll list out the meetings between USL League One and USL Championship. There are a few USL NISA or USL with other teams, but we have Charleston and South Georgia, Colorado Springs and Northern Colorado, El Paso and Fuego, Tucson and Vegas, Triumph and Oakland, Louisville City and Chattanooga Red Wolves, North Carolina FC and RGV. Then, so out of those teams, how many do you think pull off an upset? I'd say at max 3.
My heart said 2. My instant
Tucson,
reaction
Vegas
was
is
2.
Money. I would gamble on Tucson beating Vegas.
That's, I mean, yeah.
So you've got 1 in the bank, at least in my estimation.
I tossed North Carolina beating RGV. North Carolina's made more improvements this year, and we've seen it's yet to be seen how much improved RGV will be this season. But I could see North Carolina pulling off an upset. And I think a lot of this is it's going to be down to where this game is being played. North Carolina is hosting it to an RGV team who has to travel that way. Oakland has to make the cross-country trek to Greenville. And oftentimes within these Open Cup matches, it's down to where, like, who is hosting this game, how much travel does this team have to do, and that's just enough to toss a team off their game if they have to play a league match at home and then travel halfway across the country to play a midweek game. That it may be something that a coach says, let's just rotate through players here.
I'm trying to think of who else. I mean, Red
I think
Wolves.
Northern Colorado could honestly. It depends how much Colorado Springs wants to put into it. I'm a big believer in him and Zayed. Like Irvin Para knows how to navigate a USL championship defense. If you're talking about the Northern Colorado roster, that wouldn't shock me to see. But at the same time, it's such a crapshoot to be projecting these games from this far out. I don't know. I see a couple of these definitely coming off.
I really like the squad Fuego has made recently. They've made a couple just real deal signings. The one that I got a few DMs about was this recent signing that they made from the Barca Academy in Arizona. And I feel like they have there's a few guys that have come out of that academy. And obviously any player coming out of a Barca Academy, duh. That's going to be something to look out for. But I mean, I think there are just players all around that are just making headlines. I mean, what was it today? Red Wolves announced a guy. It's the Puerto Rican captain, right?
Yeah,
Luis
Cardona, who
Cardona.
got about a dozen games with Charlotte or Hartford last season in the championship.
And that makes a second Puerto Rico player with Jane Cervena now in North Carolina, another team we just talked about. I don't think Red Wolves are going to beat Lou City, but I think this year is going to be really fun because we're going to see just how competitive they can be because I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm just happy to have the tournament back.
No kidding.
Absolutely. For me, there is no better sporting day on the calendar than that round when we get championship teams against League One teams. Or like, there's something about jumping between bad YouTube streams, taking in like Mississippi Brilla upset matches that is just the best of American soccer for me.
Let me tell you, the Brilla live rent free in my mind just because there is a goalkeeper of Jordan Bell who was there for like a year when in like what year was that? 2017, I think. And he played the Hammers and he kept coming out of the box. Because he's a goalkeeper, he was just going halfway up and we kept chanting at him the whole time. And he was awesome. People loved him. There were a lot of Birmingham Hammers fans that drove to Miami with a tifo of Jordan Bell because we all love the dude. I love the Brilla so much just because of stupid, weird fourth division rivalry. I don't know. Like, I got a good laugh out of him because I told him that Scotland was the worst country in the UK, and then he immediately backed up
England.
into the box. So I feel like I did that. So, so go ahead, Ryan.
It's just a great tournament to come back. There are just so many great stories, and it's one of the like pinnacle days of just being a U.S. soccer fan that you need to pay attention to and just need to watch. It's the third oldest cup competition in the world, and that's something rare within soccer within this country that we can claim something as old as that in the likes of the British Isles within Europe. And it's really something we should be proud of as a nation to have a competition like this with so many good stories, like the Florida Soccer Soldiers, Christos, old Kitsap Pumas, and all of these cup sets they make for just great history for this sport.
So there was one other thing I wanted to discuss, and before we let John go, because he has a heart out very soon. Oh man, now I'm struggling to find the player. Nicholas, I think it's Molina. He just signed for a team in League One, and he was the Golden Boot winner for League Two. Let me tell you, I watched this guy's tape because I had him on my list of players I wanted Legion to scout and sign. He is going to tear up League One. Remember the name, like Nicholas Molina. He's the real deal. But John, you have a heart out.
Quick, yeah. So I think just a couple real quick things to hit on. Molina had actually trialed with Oakland earlier in the preseason, from what I understand, and like scored goals. And this is an Oakland team that needed a forward. So like there were teams sniffing this guy. He's going to be good. But go for it.
I really like the guy. His tape is real. His tape is the real deal. But we're not done yet, as far as I know. But John has a heart out. So, what do you have to say to all the people at home? What are your closing thoughts for you?
Yeah, so just real quick and kind of randomly, but that's what I do with this segment. I saw Scott in the comments kind of mention jumping over from the PHNX Phoenix Rising stream. So that's just for me an example of how USL is growing, where one of the ascendant sports media organizations in the Phoenix area, like I love the Arizona Coyotes coverage, has a show devoted to the Phoenix Rising where they're coming with live streams all the time that are like professionally produced. That's completely amazing. So just to see that sort of thing popping up in Phoenix and all of the amazing coverage we get across the league is a joy. And to be even a small part of that through this show has just been amazing. So a nice little positive parting thought here.
It's a positive thought because we're not talking about the Coyotes actually playing hockey. So sorry, John.
It's fine. I'm fine. And with that, what did you do?
See you, John. Hope it gets better. So, God, I really want to have, because John started doing this cool thing where he started comparing NHL players or USL players to NHL players. And I would love to get more of those kind of connections made, or like just other sports and comparing them to soccer players, because I think for a lot of new fans, getting a good comparison in would be really cool. And John had some really cool stuff. I think it was Brian Ownby. He had as the best defending striker or the best defending offensive player in the USL, which I forget which trophy that is in the NHL because they have like 1,000 of them. The one thing that the NHL loves more than fighting, which they don't even love fighting anymore, is just handing out trophies for everything. Best offensive defender, best defensive offensive player. Just if you can think of it, there's a trophy.
That sounds like, I guess, midway or into season, a USO superlatives episode.
That sounds. I'm gonna message John. We need to have that. That sounds awesome.
And not even just that, it could be superlatives for like best goals or just like a mid-season awards episode. I think that leads into another, like if we're talking about things that I would love to see within U.S. soccer, and I think it's been tossed around as an idea in the past, and then the past couple of seasons with everything else has kind of derailed the idea of it. But I would love to see a USL All-Star game.
Oh my God, yes! Like literally East versus West. That's all
hosted at Louisville, go to Sacramento. Like just pick like a team to host an All-Star game in the middle of the year, or have like a fan vote. You pick player, at least one from every team. You treat it like MLB does their All-Star game. So you have the managers of both, either do like the host team as one manager, and then whoever's leading the other opposite conference as the other manager. And just like 1 week, you just have an all-star game. Let it be like a celebration of soccer. Like I would love to see you do a USL 1 all-star game. Like you pick 22 players across the league for that starting lineups, and then you do an East and West one. Just have them both at the same location and let that be like a true celebration of the league. Like if you hold it at like a central spot like a Louisville, or you hold it somewhere or warm like the Tampa Bay or something, I feel like that would be a really good display for the league.
So this is a horrible idea. So don't, if you're the people at USLHQ, this is either a great idea or a horrible idea, but don't listen to me either way. Imagine if it was tournament style and it was League One East versus Championship East. And then whoever wins, they go on to the finals and they take on the League One West versus the Championship West. And they meet together for a full match. Now, granted, you couldn't do that in back-to-back days. This is not like the NBA All-Star game where they just go to 50 and then they just go move on in the tournament. Tired legs are a thing, but maybe make it something like a shorter a shorter match. Maybe it's only a 60-minute match or something of the sort. Unlimited substitutions. Or, hear me out, we create it's literally a 5-a-side. It's just a 5-a-side tournament. I mean, there's so much potential.
I thought you were gonna say for instead of a celebrity all-star game, you pick like each team takes a podcaster at that team and have it be a lower division podcaster all-star game.
That would be hysterical. That would be okay. So Gio's getting picked up first. We all know how that's going to end up working. It's going to be. Would only one of us get picked? Oh God, who?
We have 6, so one of us would have to be the manager of the 5-a-side team.
Could you imagine a USL podcast celebrity game and we all have to play in it? It's God, that'd be so freaking. Oh,
I mean,
God.
when I went to the one of the cool things when I went to the MLS All-Star game in 2015, that was when the All-Stars were playing Tottenham. They had a supporters group, like each supporters group across the country for Tottenham. They played on Colorado Rapids fields and just did a supporters All-Star or like supporters tournament, which I thought was a cool lead up to the day. But one of the ideas that I really enjoyed there was they had an MLS next game, not next, like an MLS Young Stars game, which is basically the U23 All-Star team going up against the Club America U23 All-Star teams. And I thought that was such a really cool event that you saw a lot of like, it was basically like the MLS 2 All-Stars at the time were playing against Club America's All-Stars. And with the MLS season already doing like an MLS versus Liga MX All-Star game, I feel like that would be a fun display. So it's proven that you can do an all-star team at this level, even if you have to tie it within the MLS all-star game. But I can understand why the league would want to showcase the league itself and not tie it to say, okay, we're going to play this as like a precursor to an MLS all-star game. We would like to have it at Louisville or Sacramento or somewhere.
I think the USL, while I love that it takes itself seriously, I think sometimes diving into the more silly, fun side, like all-star games, just doing ridiculous crap. I mean, guys that I think could be like really fun. I mean, could you imagine, especially when we had the biggest contingency, other guys that moved away, but like, it's like skills matches and you just have all the Brazilians and Jamaicans just like hanging out with each other. Like, especially the Jamaican players are all best friends, every single one of them. And just seeing all of them just going head to head and doing like some skills challenge, just trying to outdo each other. I mean, just watching other people have fun would be fun.
And at the very least, soccer is one of those sports that I feel like an all-star game could potentially, it wouldn't be as watered down of a game as the Pro Bowl is. It would not be as poor a display or as poor a product that a league would put on the field as the Pro Bowl. I feel like it would be at least somewhat competitive. It might not be a full speed game. Like there have been a few MLS All-Star games in the past where it was a preseason European club just getting into form. And it was a team of MLS All-Stars who have been practicing together for about 4 days. But I still feel like it would be something entertaining that people would want to watch.
Ooh, now
do a NASCAR game and let Bolt play up front.
That would be so freaking funny. Bolt, if you're in the chat, we have a proposition. We have a proposition for you. I'm trying to think. What's another? Now, this is assuming U.S. Soccer would work together. It's the USL All-Star team versus the Wooden Spoon winner from the year before.
I still think the MLS Wooden Spoon team would beat the USL All-Stars. It's the same debate that you would have of the Jacksonville Jaguars going up against Alabama. The Jaguars would beat Alabama. No, they would beat Alabama 99 times out of 100.
I'm not arguing that point. They would destroy Alabama. There's, like 10 players for Alabama who are pros. Everybody on Jacksonville everybody in Jacksonville is professional. I get that. I think that, okay, I'm projecting here. It's either going to be Cincy or Charlotte. I'm thinking Charlotte, Wooden Spoon. If you take the All-Stars, the best of the USL versus them, I don't know. I think the USL might win that like 4 times out of 10. I
If
think
only
it'd be
there
close.
was a system where we could compare what the worst team would be against the best team from the lower division and maybe have them play off and the winner gets the spot in the upper division. That's too ludicrous. It can't work in this country at all.
Listen, come on. I really don't want to get I don't want to get a nasty email or DM from the USSF. Come on. The USL shut down permanently. What? Well, I'm trying to think. I haven't done my. I'm trying to think of just because we're talking about USL versus MLS. Legion just played Atlanta United a couple days ago, and let me tell you, hey, Atlanta United actually looks like a real deal team this year. I mean, I know they've made the playoffs these last few years, but let me tell you, they look good. Good. Miles Robinson and George Campbell, especially Miles Robinson, he is everything that he is said to be. I mean, I was watching him go against some of our guys, and you see what a world-class center back looks like. He is just, I mean, that guy is legit. But I will say this, and I know John's in the chat, John Fuller's in the chat. He has similar comments. If you're looking for a new standout player who's brand new to the league that nobody's heard of, let me tell you, Eddie Horvath might be standout like newcomer of the year when it comes to the USL. He just touched down from Slovenia, I think, or Croatia. I don't remember where, because he played in like the second tier Slovenian football, but he's from Croatia. I don't know which one he came from, which one he was flying from. He just touched down last week. And for a guy who's only been in the U.S. for 1 week, who had never played on turf before, guy looked nuts. Stupid fast, stupid strong, had a knack for goal. Unfortunately for him, Miles Robinson just happened to be the guy man marking him. I'm biased, but he's going to shock a lot of people, I think.
It's interesting always seeing how preseason goes, and every team across U.S. soccer has their own different approach to how they want to go with preseason. Some teams will play a couple games here, and some teams will just want to practice, maybe play a few closed-door friendlies, and then move on into the preseason period. I do feel like there have been some impacts with just how much can you build a squad and get them together within the preseason and have that cohesion and get in that preparation for the season. And that certainly impacts how a team goes across the year. You could say that's been one of the detriments for an MLS2 side, that you don't know who's going to be on the squad until you have like that first match for the season for USL, because they're still figuring out who's going to be on the MLS roster. And then you still have that time so you send a player down to the MLS2 side as like a rehab game, much like they've done in minor league baseball at the time, where you send someone to build up fitness, but so that really it impacts the cohesion for the season. And it's something that I think every team, there's no right way to do preseason, but there's certainly a wrong way to do it.
I will say I learned a lot. The way that apparently Legion likes to do this, because I asked some of the players, I was like, well, this is only your second friendly, a lot of the guys just got here, like Marlon Santos, the FC Tulsa player. I meant to mention this to John, but dude literally touched down in Birmingham like an hour or two before a tornado hit. And then less than 4 days later, he was playing in a friendly. Mackie Jop, former Atlanta United 2 player, now Legion player, literally showed up to Birmingham less than 12 hours before our match against Atlanta United, and he still played. It kind of shows you how far along some of these teams, MLS are, because they're playing in, what is it, like 6 days now? Or whatever.
This week.
And it just shows you how far along they are. But like Legion, I was like, you guys is on your second one. And one of the players was like, well, we're going to get a lot of playing time because the way that Tommy Sohn and Jay Heaps like to do this, is that we have a match every single week leading up to the regular season. He wants us to be in regular season form by the time we get to the regular season. It's not every 2 weeks. We have our weeks lined up like a real regular season, which I think that might be the right way to do it, or maybe that's rushing it. I don't know. I mean, everybody has different thoughts and different opinions, but it makes sense to me.
And with the season for USL pretty much beginning here in based on March 12th, that's when we have the official kickoff of the year. It's at this point, you need to have a pretty decent idea of who's on your side, because you need that period of time to build up the roster, to let them just gel together, let them play matches. Even if it's like a few closed door games, this is pretty much, you need to have a full lineup plus 5 bench players already on your roster, or at least in the MLS2 case, an idea of who's going to be there.
Which is kind of why I made the 90% joke of Vegas. I mean, I get they have a few players like Declan Cannon, which dude is a wicked good center back. I always liked him. But they kind of have an idea. They kind of don't. Guys like Vegas, it just feels like they're just kind of wandering. And maybe they have a clue, but maybe they don't. I did learn recently, though, and maybe this is a dumb thing to just now realize, but Atlanta United, too, is doing friendlies right now as well, which I didn't even think about, the fact that the two teams are having to do friendlies as well as the senior squad. It's just something I never really thought about. John, I don't know who Legion are playing this weekend. Some tells me, like in years past, it's probably going to be like teams like Peachtree MOBA or something like that, and some USL League 2 team, or a college team like UAB. It's not uncommon. So that would be my guess, or maybe even Birmingham Southern, because that's where they were doing the other day, but I'm not sure. But yeah, it's really interesting that two teams do friendlies. I just never thought about it. It's so obvious, but just never considered it.
But I think it'll be interesting with this season that we basically have the two teams, presumably for the last season in USL before they go off to MLS Next. And I'll be curious how MLS Next will perform this year, and just the comparison of just competitive levels of play and what to expect from that. Apparently, they're actually going to be streaming all of those games on either team websites or the MLS website, which basically it harkens back to the era of those old YouTube streams of USL days when the chat was going crazy over specific players, or asking about betting odds from just from the season from people overseas and stuff.
So I did get the message. Now I know you're watching at Charm City SG. Okay. Charm City Mob is the SG of Christos. They keep telling us, like Christos are going to run, USL League 2. I get it. You're the new team. You're the new SG on the block coming into USL League 2. Let me tell you, Des Moines is the real deal. They're repeating this year. And I'm sorry that this is not what you wanted to hear. You come up with awesome kits online. You have a wonderful color scheme with black and green. But Des Moines is the real deal. If Des Moines does not win again, I'd be pretty shocked. But also, who's another team that could probably win League 2? My heart tells me it's probably what is it, Minneapolis, the Crows?
I mean, yeah, Minneapolis City.
I mean, they've won their league 6 years in a row at this point. It's something stupid. Pretty competitive team. I'm not saying, Christos, that you can't do it, but you haven't shown me that you can. Show me something first. Show me something. Here I am cutting promos on a League 2 team that I've never watched in person. I'm sure you are all wonderful people. And I'm sure I'm going to get a weird DM eventually from their coach, because that's what happens on this show.
But yeah, I'm just excited to have a season back. MLS starting this weekend, USL within a few other weeks. And it's just great to have soccer returning just in season for this country.
So, do you think? Oh, also, where's Alan? I think he has some stuff come up today. Wasn't able to join. Today was kind of a busy day for everybody. As it turns out, Super 2 Tuesday was a big deal for a lot of people. We had to celebrate accordingly. Do you think we'll do anything weird? No, I don't know what they could do that would be just overtly weird besides simply exist, even though half the teams pulled out. I think
Detroit City in a match would be weird.
Oh my God. Listen, I want to tread carefully because my DMs cannot handle Detroit City coming after me right now. So, hey, I love you guys. I still think that you guys are going to get Solomon Asante. So just remember that.
I think they'll be a playoff team.
I think they might sneak in. Yeah, they just feel like a team that will. But God, if an MLS team two team beat them, it'd be so good. If it was a team like Vegas somehow, the sky would collapse. Let me tell you, of all the Open Cup matches, Michigan Stars versus Detroit City. If you're not watching that one, you better be watching your own team's match because that one's going to be spicy. That one, for all the off-field and on-field stuff, that one's going to be spicy, and I'm here for it.
But overall, I don't think we'll see anything too strange from any of the MLS 2 sides in the league. I think it'll be another standard season for them before they move on into MLS Next. Maybe one or two sneaks into the playoffs in the end, but I don't think we'll see anything too crazy like one of them winning the league and then departing the next year. Or I'd love to see, for old time's sake, a New York Red Bulls Baby Bulls era team to try and just give us one last season of magic, but I don't think so. I think we'll have a pretty standard MLS 2 season, and that'll be that before we go to fully independent teams next year, I believe.
That would be so Baby Bulls to win the league and leave. That would be the most Baby Bulls thing they could do.
Add 2 stars to the crest. They have one already.
That team was so good. I know we keep teasing another show that we're planning on doing, but God, that team was so good. It was ridiculous.
And I think those teams stayed in USL this year. That was up to MLS gave them a preference if they wanted to join next or if they wanted to stay this season. And they wanted to stay in this league just due to a higher playing ability than what MLS Next is probably going to give. And I think a bit more stability. I think even before MLS Next was a thing, there were talks of even if teams are going to drop out of the league, that the Baby Bulls and Los Dos would still want to keep their teams within USL just because it's a higher playing field and they care about that competition. And they've also been in the league longer than quite many other MLS 2 sides have been in this league.
Yeah. I mean, there's still 2 sides or U23 sides in League 2 as well. So it's not a complete withdrawal. There's still some remnants here and there. And in WSL now with League W or W League. League W.
But
anyway,
across MLS, there's teams who do their academies and youth setups well, and there are teams who don't do it as strongly as others. I do believe we're improving across the country and across the league, but there are just some teams who put more efforts into their academies than others, and you'll find that across every single sports league across the world.
There are a couple USL clubs upcoming, but we'll see them when they get here. I think the big influx next year is going to be League One teams because there's a good bit of those coming with Lexington if that stadium gets approved. Good stuff, but that we have talked a whole lot of everything and a whole lot of nothing all at once. Ryan, do you have any departing words for everybody?
Just excited to have MLS starting up this week, and I feel like the season is nearly here, guys.
Yeah, that's where I am. I feel like we're almost there, about to cross the finish line. I guess my departing thoughts, and this goes for John. Hey, not the one that was just on, but John Fuller in the chat. Stay safe. We're under tornado watches again, so don't get blown away. And if I do get blown away, I'll try to video it and post it on Twitter, I guess, because that makes for good content as being inside of a tornado. So I don't know, do anything for the clicks. Am I right, boys? Also, a lot of people were not happy about my Devil Went Down to Georgia take. That was a very unpopular one, as I found out through my Twitter mentions. That was a very unpopular take. I'm sorry that I'm right, but if you don't know what I'm talking about, watch the last episode. If you're in the chat, check out the Discord. It's a good time. If we miss anything about your club, if you want to hear us talk about more about your club, the Discord's the best way to let us know. Drop it into our chat. It's super easy to use, and it doesn't cost anything. We don't make any money from it, although if Discord wants to sponsor us, please. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening, whichever way you're doing it. Hope you have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and that's been the USL show. Thanks, guys.